This control to coaching topic today.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Yes, it couldn't be a happier Friday. I see people jumping on, and so we'll go ahead and get started right on time. We'll start promptly at 10 o'clock. Don't be shy. Get ready to participate in chat, to raise your hand if you want to share anything as we move through today's lesson. And here we go. We see people coming on. Welcome, welcome. Good morning. Happy Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Thank you for joining. We're about a minute or so away from getting started. Thank you again for being a part of today's webinar.
Just for a quality check, can you hear my air conditioner when it goes on and off?
I cannot. I cannot. You are good. You are good. I think we're fueled up and ready this morning.
You just inspired me to turn my air conditioner on here, so let's see what happens.
It has been super hot lately. Whew, it's been hot. It's been a hot one in California. If you're tuning in from California, you know what we're talking about.
Yep.
Okay, so we're right at the top of the hour, so I'll go ahead and get us going. So like I mentioned today, we're going to be focusing on control to coaching and what that means and how that helps managers elevate their management style for a real impact, right? Moving past kind of a theoretical or conceptual approach, but really understanding what it means. Before we do that, I'll share a little bit about who Management Cues is and who each of us are and where our experience comes from. So Management Cues is a neuroscience-backed management training company. And what makes us unique is that we're scientifically proven to work. We measure our training results in real time, which allows us to show our participants their skills gaps, what areas to improve, and have that immediate aha moment where you know exactly what you can capitalize on. And the whole goal of what Management Cues does is not only to provide knowledge and insight, but to create an experience around what management really is and leadership and the capacity to lead. So that's a little bit about Management Cues. And I'm going to go ahead and say just a little bit about each of our participants and team members today. So we're excited because at Management Cues, our team is growing and we have phenomenal experience and talent on board. So I'll start by introducing Danielle and letting her share just a little bit about herself. Danielle is our anti-bias strategist, and she's a strategist across multiple levels, not just bias. But Danielle, I'll let you share just a little bit of your extensive experience.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Mayra, thanks for having me. Danielle Nava-Mijares, and I am a career nonprofit person. About 9 years ago, I retired from nonprofit work, executive leadership work. And when I started in nonprofit work, I worked my way up from field worker all the way to, and I say up because it was up a chain, but one of my mentors said, the more you get promoted, the more it feels like a demotion because you get further and further away from what you do. I always laugh when I think about that because while that might be true, the impact of leadership and management should not be ignored. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation today to incorporate newer tools around coaching and really shifting our paradigm. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And, Danielle has that one-on-one coaching type of experience and insight, which we're going to hear from today. I learn a lot from her. And so I can't wait to go through kind of what it looks like to really be in the middle of that coaching experience. Next is Craig, who I just adore working with, the champion of engagement. And I actually proclaim him the engagement architect when it comes to Management Cues. But he goes by many, many amazing creative and innovative titles because what he does is just fully immersive. And if there's one thing I've learned from Craig, it's psychological safety and how to break away from that kind of control field in an environment. So Craig, go ahead, share a little bit about yourself.
Hey, everybody. High fives through the screen. Spread a high five to someone today. And I hope you have a great Friday and weekend coming up. And I'm an innovation facilitator. So my passion is helping teams unlock share ideas, and cross-pollinate in a way that they're really creating value for their customer. And to do it using design thinking, which means putting your customer at the center of how you innovate. So that when you're creating things, you know you're creating things people want, and that it's going to move the needle for them, and it's going to change lives in big ways and in small ways. So I'm super excited to be here today. My history is in innovation at big companies like Gillette P&G. I taught at Rhode Island School of Design for 6 years, and the last 6, 7 years I've been doing innovation facilitation with all sorts of executive teams and companies, nonprofits, big, small, etc. So let's go. Let's do this.
Yes, let's do this. And nobody does it quite like Craig. That has been my experience. So collectively, the three of us have engaged or participated or led in building interdisciplinary leadership training and teams. We have applied experience in addition to facilitation experience. We've helped advance workforce equity through different types of management techniques and approaches. Coaching is definitely one of those that I think really helps us get there in the real world and move past theory. We've also expanded a collaborative approach to how we train, consult, deliver solutions to people, which makes it more of an immersive experience and also one that sticks with people. So that's a little bit about us, part of what they call the dream team at Management Cues, right? We have so many great facilitators and we have some people joining us. So I'll go ahead and let them in. And here we go. Buckle up. Get ready for the ride. So today what we're going to cover is we're going to make some distinctions between coaching and controlling. We're going to talk about some of the costs behind having kind of a controlling mindset or behavior, or even maybe auditing whether we're falling into that trap. We're going to talk about coaching and what it means, and Danielle is going to take us through that kind of revelation of what it looks like and what it feels like. And then we're going to have our interactive activity led by Craig. And so he's going to walk us through some real-time exercises that help us reflect and reinforce where we stand in what we're going to talk about today. And then at the end, we'll talk about some action planning, and we'll close it out and absolutely leave time for some Q&A. All right, let's get into it. So I'll go ahead and kick us off. And so distinctions are really important, I feel, in management, in leadership, and even in education. As a professor, I know that I like to start with fundamentals. And the reason I start with fundamentals is because having a baseline makes it easy to then build upon. So from a manager's perspective, there is an important distinction between being controlling, which is an unhealthy leadership behavior, and controlling, which is actually a legitimate management function. So I think that that's where things get gray for managers, and it can become not only gray, but we go from something that is expected to something that goes in the wrong direction. And so making that distinction helps us not do that, but also now know how to develop true skill around management and leadership. So we'll start with this distinction. Right? So what is being controlling in the workforce versus controlling, which is an expected part of a management role? So being controlling focuses on controlling people, while controlling as a function of management focuses on controlling processes and results. So it moves away from people and focuses on the environment. Being controlling focuses on micromanaging, while controlling as a function of management is more about monitoring progress towards goals. And so you start to get the feel that it's less about being on top of somebody all the time and understanding the environment. So being controlling limits autonomy and decision-making. Setting up the appropriate controls, however, establishes clear expectations and accountability. Controlling makes the decision only in one place. So when you're being controlling, you're making all of the decisions, you're not opening it up to the team. But if you're using controlling as a function of management, you're actually delegating while understanding what's happening around you, which is maintaining oversight. Creating dependency on the manager, that's actually you being controlling. So we don't want our team members to be dependent on us. We want them to be independent and be able to perform, right? So when you are designing controls for the environment, you're developing employee capability and independence. And I think that making that distinction and looking at your outcomes is what helps us be more impactful. Reacting to mistakes with blame, that is a controlling outcome. Using mistakes and opportunities to actually learn and improve, that is a control design. That is an effective one in management. Reducing trust and psychological safety, that happens when you are being controlling. But when you're using controlling as a function of management and you're using it in the right way, you're building trust through consistency, fairness, and transparency. So I'm going to pause there just because I have to gauge and pick on the experts at the table here, just because I've seen them in action and I know they might lend some insight to this. So Danielle, I know that this is not your section, but I would love your insight. Have you seen some of this in the real world?
Absolutely. And I love that you're making the distinction between the two, because I think that often goes left unsaid, implied, or just otherwise unknown. I think control is rarely about being power hungry. It's more about the lack of training and the acknowledgement of what's the functionality and how do I manage with people, not manage people necessarily. So I'm loving this. Thank you for making that really clear distinction that we still have to maintain some sort of infrastructure, but the same rules don't apply to when we're working with people. Right?
Yeah.
So thank you for uplifting that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it was a tough lesson for me to learn. And so I always like to make that distinction. Craig, I'd love to hear from you as somebody who is just somebody who diffuses environments that do not feel safe. What is your take on what we're doing here?
Oh my God, it's hard to see an enemy number one on this list because in different cultures, you see all different combinations of these things. But I would say if I had to zoom into one, I would say micromanaging employees. And what I see a lot is it's almost unconscious micromanagement. A lot of times leaders don't realize quite the intensity with which they're micromanaging people. And that also, if you research it, tends to be one of the number one reasons that people leave from a manager is they don't feel trusted, they feel controlled, and they don't feel empowered with the expertise they have because the puppet thing is happening. So
Yes.
that's the one I'd zoom in on. Yeah.
Yeah, let's cut those strings, right? Yeah. So one of the let's cut it all up. So one of those things that I remember from being a young manager was that I thought at certain times in my career that being controlling was a component of management. And so today, part of making the distinction and understanding coaching better is knowing that that's not effective management. It's not good management. It's counterproductive. So I won't read all of these in detail. You're going to get a copy of this deck, but I will say that there is a cost to controlling behavior for managers. As an executive, I've seen it at a high level across teams that I have been tasked with synchronizing and shifting culture around and developing. There's definitely a cost when we're being controlling and we think that maybe that's the right approach for performance, and it's just not. So some of those costs are a reduction in productivity. There are decision bottlenecks. So there's a lot of time and energy that's wasted when our approach to management is controlling. Manager burnout, because having that incessant oversight or that absence of safety, it burns us out on multiple levels. Poor delegation happens, lower employee engagement, turnover is definitely affected by this, and there's a reduction in innovation. So one of the things that I've noticed in practice and even in sessions with somebody like Craig, when the safety is completely felt across the room, the ideas and the contributions start flying. Like people just they just feel good. It just feels like fun. Like there's not going to be punishment. Like they can actually show up as themselves. And this is true of our environments. And so when we are controlling, we lose that it feels like magic, to be quite honest, when it's really happening, but you lose that. And so you start to have weaker problem solving because of it. You start to have a limited leadership pipeline because people see the controlling behavior and don't want to be that person. Right. So it's like this domino effect that happens across an organization. And ultimately, there's a lot of damaged trust. And trust is one of those things that you cannot buy, cannot fake it until you make it. It's something that is felt, it's intrinsic, it comes from the inside. And so if we're the kind of person who wants to be very efficient, enjoy structure, another way of looking at control is that it's costing you something, right? And I say that just because I'm a transactional person by nature. I see things in black and white. And so once I understood the cost, I understood why it was necessary for me to make changes. So how to recognize control-based management habits. So we have to have the come to truth moments with ourselves if we're really going to grow. And so that's a choice we have to make. Do I want to grow? Do I want to be more impactful? Do I want the company to be more profitable? That requires a mind shift if you're stuck in this kind of control to coaching place. So you feel the need to approve everything. If that's a thing, you might want to check yourself a little bit and see where that's coming from. If you micromanage the process instead of managing the outcome, right? You're reducing autonomy when you do that, and that activates the threat response in people very naturally and very quickly. If you frequently say, it's easier if I do it myself, and I remember being a younger manager and getting stuck in that trap. If employees wait for your approval before taking action, that's an absence of safety, right? That's where that dependency comes from. If you correct small details more than you coach performance, you're focusing your energy on that micromanagement, perfection type of mindset, and it's actually working against you. You feel uncomfortable when employees do things differently. And that's a hard one because you really have to be honest with yourself. Are you open to different viewpoints and perspectives and way of seeing the same thing? Delegation feels risky, like you can't do it because it's going to get messed up. So if that's the mindset, we have to check a couple of things, especially as we listen to Danielle in the next few slides. You solve problems before employees can. You don't even give them the opportunity to try. You just run in there and solve it yourself. And your calendar is filled with status meetings because people are not synchronized, right? And we're not moving in a sync and a flow. And so we have to have a million meetings for us to feel like we're informed or aware of what's happening. You measure presence more than performance. And I see your question in chat, Craig. Did you want to say something and kind of see if people are willing to share a little bit?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, these are all wonderful squares, but I'm wondering, is one of these squares for any of our participants kind of popping out towards you, growing in your brain, resonating? Which one of these is kind of, hitting the heart and mind for you? Anyone want to share?
Yeah, anybody willing to share a little vulnerability moment?
This is a judgment-free zone. All ideas are welcome, wanted. It's only going to help the group if you share. No pressure, but if you want to, please go ahead.
Space for the next few slides to jump into. But I love, Craig, that you're asking people like, what's resonating right now? What's giving us the somatic response of, ooh, maybe.
Right. Maybe that's me. Maybe that's me. So I'll keep going, but I will share what was difficult for me when I was younger and I was more of a junior manager. So I think it was easy for me to say, it's easier for me to do it myself. I think that was something that to me, I needed to mentally shift how I felt about it. And how I focused on the team around me versus making it all about me. Right. I think that one of the things that was hard for me was not having to be the person who approved everything, and giving people trust and autonomy was hard for me because I was focused on execution, because I was transactional, which aren't necessarily bad things. But I do feel like once that shifted, I became a lot more impactful, and my career track is proof of that, right? I started to move through the ranks because I understood how to create an environment, not just focus on controlling what was happening right in front of me. All right, so let's keep going. Let's keep going. So from control to cognitive growth. So I'm going to pass over the baton to Danielle. And Danielle, just go ahead and let me know when you want me to move the slide. But go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. So wouldn't it be wonderful it would be, I think, amazing if we could focus on transforming experiences for people, because our ROI, you will see exponentially will rise. Also, we cut down on attrition rate. And so I want to talk about the difference between what coaching and mentoring is, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth as we go through. But coaching is really about helping a person to recognize that if there's a pause, if there's some critical thought and some really good questions, they might be able to figure out the answer and or how to proceed. Whereas being controlled, I remember walking into my boss's office and having them say, "This is what you're going to do." I had no understanding and no buy-in. I had to sort of filter that through. That was definitely how I was trained, and I had to unlearn many, many things, as Dr. Mayra talked about, as a newer manager. I'd like to say I was a junior manager at that time, but I'm pretty sure it took quite some time for me to unlearn a lot of the things I had learned as a traditional practice of managing, which really felt like it should have been a traditional controlling of management. I mentioned earlier that control is rarely about being power hungry. It's often a concern of getting the outcome done. And I would say that managers, especially mid-level managers, don't get too many opportunities for professional growth and development. They're not introduced to mentorship. They're not often introduced to conferences or other PDs that would help to expand the critical thought around that. So I love what Management Cues is doing, because it gives us the opportunity to explore that, but also to explore leadership and not just be compounded with supervision, procedures, and transactional activity. So Mayra, thank you so much.
Ooh, that was like a mind connection there.
Glad you caught that, because that was maybe accidental, Craig. So this is compelling. If you read this, managers often justify controlling, stating that they're just highly concerned about results and outcomes, as if others aren't. One, it already implies like, I know best, I'm the expert. I shy away from the word expert now, and I'll say maybe content expert, because I think that there's room for us to grow even when we hit the upper levels of management or leadership. Coaching really recognizes that our sustainable results come from developing people and not directing every single action of that person. So I'm going to give you an example. I don't know if I've shared this with Dr. Mayra before, but I was in college. I worked in the transfer center, and my task was to put packets together. And the way I was stapling wasn't good enough. My supervisor came over to me and said, it would be much easier if you left them flat, hit them, and then went like, and showed me this motion. And I, as a grown up now, because I was maybe 19, I thought, are you kidding me? What's efficient and effective for you? It's not a one size fits all. This is the way my body works. This is how I do it. It took me twice as long to get the stuff done. And then she got angry about that. I was too young to push back on that, but I just think, wow, maybe she could have said something else, but to control how I was stapling, it blows my mind. And I talk about this because I lost trust for that person. I also lost a sense of safety. I was very much, instead of being quick on my feet or practicing autonomy or doing things that I thought like, I see this here, I can kind of get this together, I would ask permission for every single thing. So instead of feeling acknowledged, I felt as though I had no autonomy to make any decisions. And I was a lackluster student employee as a result. Was that her fault? I don't know. I didn't know how to behave. It was my first real kind of job, and I was a first-year college student. Okay, Mayra. Mayra, did I ever tell you that story? Yeah, it's embarrassing.
No, but I think it echoes what a lot of us feel, especially at the beginning, right? Because what she signaled was that there was no room for any other way, and that the main objective was to get it done that way. And so
Yeah.
I think that that is just such a hindrance, right? I know that for us, we're working right now with our intern Theo, who is on the webinar, and part of the approach is I want to learn from him, hopefully as much as he's learning from all of us, because he has something to contribute. And what he has to contribute is his lens. And we just don't have that lens, no matter how hard we try. So I'll go ahead and bounce it back to you, but
Thank you.
that's what came to my mind.
Yeah, thank you. So take a look at this. Control asks, how can I make sure that things get done correctly? Coaching asks, how can I help that this person to become more capable of doing something independently or having some autonomy? I think, I don't like to use the words mistakes. I think people have to give things a try and see if it works out, because the way Shirley told me how to staple was not, my hands didn't work that way. I'm right-handed and pushing things to the left. It didn't make sense to me, but hey, okay. So, using Shirley as an example, think about how control often dictates not just what work gets done, but how it gets done. And that is so powerful. I have to catch myself, like, is it how it's being done? And thank goodness my husband's not watching, but it's usually I'll ask him to do something and then I want to tell him how to do it. And I have to shut my mouth often because I like being married to him. And if he's doing his best, I have to stop myself from saying like, that don't use a sponge that way. I mean, really, Danielle, is it about it getting washed, or is it about you having control over how it gets washed, right? And so when I think about it like that, yeah, Craig, you're laughing because, I mean, there's also this brain frame of socialization of how things should be done, right? So I want you to think about, for those of you who are listening, I'd love some feedback. Ask yourself 3 questions that might give you some perspective. And so that requires pause. I love the power of the pause instead of becoming reactive. Often transactional ways of being can lead to reactions because you're hearing it and you're already answering it, versus let me think about that. Let me hear what's not being said. So you're also looking at the nonverbal cues. But I want you to think about, is the way the person's doing something, is it wrong or is it different? Question 2 is this about trust? Do I trust this person? Do I trust my team? I have no idea why I just popped up as another on your screen there, but I'm here. And 3, is it necessary to give approval on every task, or is it self-imposed? So this is really off form, but I think the safety that Craig would come to me and say like, hey, I'm not sure about this. That's what I want. I'm not sure about this. And then we can problem solve together. And that's not me telling him unless it's an absolute like black and white answer, which it rarely is. It also helps our folks to really think about their own growth and their own way of moving through the organization and creating some sort of content expertise in themselves. It also develops critical thinking. I don't know, but maybe I can figure this out. Or when I did 2 and 2 and 2, this doesn't make sense. I actually reformat it. And what do you think about this? That's the kind of synergy that I want to create.
And that's just to build on, that's the kind of energy that empowers multi-generational workplaces.
Absolutely.
Where I run into a lot of like, how are we going to manage this multi-generational thing, different philosophies coming together? But that openness that you're talking about, where people who can bring new solutions, bring new perspectives, that's where that additive innovation energy starts building,
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you said that, because we have about 5 generations in the workplace at any given time in a mid to large size organization. And believe me, the conversations that I get about XYZ this generation doesn't care about. Well, I have others on the other end saying, these folks want to control every single thing I'm doing. Like there's newer ways to autonomize and to automate those things that they're doing, right? And so I'm like, ooh, let's have a meeting of the minds. So let's go to the last slide for me. The shift from controlling to coaching changes the manager's role from problem solver to capacity builder. I don't have all the answers. If I have the title, it doesn't mean I know everything, and I shouldn't know everything. I should always be able to learn across, up, down, sideways from the organization. So this mindset also helps us to shift better the organization as a whole. As a leader, it's your job to help others move from where they are to where they need to be, where they want to be, or where they're required to be. And you can do that without a heavy controlling hand. This also creates opportunities for professional growth and upward mobility within the organization. In my mom and dad's era, they never left their job, but they also had pensions that sort of was a motivator, an extrinsic motivator to staying put. My generation didn't have that, and our current younger generations do not have pensions to keep them in place. So what keeps them in place? It's really good relationships, autonomy, freedom, critical thought, and the ability to try things out, to give it a shot. That's what keeps us here, right? And so we want to make sure that we are not trying to create our role as a legacy, but it's about building the capacity for the organization to continue its legacy. And that means allowing other people to shine and to put their mark in that space. And I'm not saying everything has to have a loose infrastructure. It doesn't, but I think one in which there's conversation versus dictation always yields better results. So Craig, I will pass this on to you. Oh, thank you.
That was awesome. I wrote down so many things while you were talking, Danielle. The guard is a prisoner. Like that was just like, wow. My brain was like, and one size fits all. So those sort of, if you want to go to the next slide, those sort of reminded me about, oh, this one is not, who wants to do this one? Oh, there we go. Hey, bam. So we just shared a lot. Dr. Mayra and Danielle, incredibly experienced and deeply involved with so many different companies doing this work. And we all just shared a lot. So we were wondering, like, what are you all thinking? What are you all feeling? Are you feeling this has been empowering? Are you feeling an aha moment? Are you thinking like what's coming next? Is anyone willing to share? I'll share something that I just got inspired by the guard is the prisoner and one size fits all. So when I was at Gillette P&G, it was very militaristic. My first management position, power and control, babysitting was used a lot by managers. I have to babysit this person. I have to babysit, so unempowering. But I got no training. I was managing 6 designers. I was like 30. All of them were older than me. So there was sort of that dynamic. And then I did something like that. Now I look back and I'm like, oh, that was horrible. I just grafted my working expectations onto all of them. And I had no kids, single, workaholic, stay at night. And a bunch of them had kids and families and they were doing great work. But I was trying to push my assumption and how I worked on them. And sort of the guard and is the prisoner kind of thing. So I wanted to share that just open-heartedly because I look back and I regret that and also learn from it, of course. But how are we feeling? Who wants to share how you're feeling? Who wants to share a little story? We welcome and embrace anything you want to share. Let's do this. You can do it. Share something. And if not, we'll keep sharing.
Yeah, just so that, do you know, Craig, I had to disable the chat. So for the audience, I'm sorry. Please raise your hand if you'd like to share something because we had the hackiness incident a couple seconds ago. I had to lock it down so that we don't get interrupted further. So if you'd like to share an experience, please raise your hand with your emoji and we'll call on you. But with that said, Craig, I can go ahead and share just for the sake of the activity. I know that for me, listening to Danielle's experience as a very young professional, a very new professional, I can say that I had experiences like that too. And it shut me down. It also made me feel like my extroversion was wrong. It also made me feel like asking as many questions as I did was a bad thing when it was actually a really good thing, but the environment wasn't prepared for me. So I'll kick that back off to you, but her example immediately triggered old memories for me.
Mayra, that's a great share. And you just helped me think. Let's sharpen our prompt a little bit here. Who can share a moment where they were shut down by kind of a controlling manager or a controlling situation, or share a moment where they were totally empowered because someone had more of a coaching mindset? Either one is totally welcome. An example where you were shut down, or an example when you were empowered. Let's share and inspire each other. Let's do it. We have $1 million check that may not cash for anyone who shares.
We have a shy group. We have a shy group. I can share again if it helps people warm up a little bit. If not, we'll carry on with the sword and shield, right, Craig? So I think that for me, the moment that I experienced mentorship is what created the aha moment for me to start to adapt and to start to balance out my raw natural talent with actual discipline. So I think that that's the other part, is that when you have a mentor or a coach, you don't lose yourself. You don't become like you're not, it's not that you're not you anymore. It's that you know where to push and pull in a way that's geared towards making a difference. So that was my experience of having mentorship and coaching. And it was those very honest, very transparent, very caring mentors who said, Mayra, you need to slow down. Mayra, you're a little intimidating. Mayra, you're too direct. Here's where you could get more out of that power, out of that superpower. And they were absolutely right. I wouldn't be who I am today without those moments.
So Mayra, we've been in a room multiple times with different companies, different groups, and different categories. And the group is incredibly open and sharing all sorts of things with us. And then in the end, we might invite in the CEO. And that's a true litmus test moment, because we've seen people kind of go from sharing and being open to just withering and closing off. And that can give you sort of an immediate litmus test on that CEO's energy from controlling to coaching and being open. You want to add anything to that, or?
It's a scary moment. It's a scary moment. And, I have enjoyed working with both of you so much. And I learn from you as I'm sitting in those rooms. And I kind of feed off of both of your energy, which has been really, really awesome. For those of you that don't know, Danielle and Craig joined Management Cues this year. So we've been doing projects together, and it really just enhanced these moments that I didn't even capture. So Craig is able to see things that I don't because I'm kind of in the moment. Same with Danielle and vice versa. So I think that when you bring in that authority dynamic and you understand what's happening around the room and you see them show vulnerability, you see them shift from that controlling behavior to more of a coaching or open, it changes everything. I mean, I think that's the minute we start to solve.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I love about Mayra is she can get to that. And I've witnessed this in multiple engagements with her. She is an accelerant on getting to that, like, what really needs to change in this culture? What are the real problems, blockers? And also, what are the strengths? I mean, to the point she has a scientific system, which is amazing, but like accelerating that diagnostic bit and getting to like what needs to change quickly. Like sometimes that takes other people like 6 months, 12 months. She's like 3 meetings. All right, here it is. So it's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next one. And we don't, like, I'm just watching the time here, so maybe we don't spend too much time on this one. But again, I wanted to share Danielle's awesome list of coaching behavior, and then just ask the audience or the three of us, let's do this. What is like one little mini step forward that we could take to nudge towards that coaching mindset, towards that coaching behavior? And I'll give a super quick example. So sharing decision-making, when I work with executive teams, I hear this a lot. They don't need to know this. They don't need to know that. I don't need Nair to share this. So controlling information, and the result of over-controlling information is people don't know the why behind what you're doing. And when people start to not know the why of why the company's doing things, why you're deciding things, why you're telling them what to do, then they start to lose motivation and they start to lose inspiration and connection. So one micro thing that I try to nudge executives on is, hey, one micro thing I want you to try in your one-on-ones. I want you to ask each executive, each person, is there any decision that you're confused about the why, like why this is happening? And then commit to spending 3 to 5 minutes with them talking through the why. That's like a micro step. So again, I'll just do the prompt again. We're looking for any micro step that we could take or that we nudge people to take towards coaching mindset.
Can I just pop in, Craig, and say I'm so glad you uplifted because that was on my list to talk about around gatekeeping information, how that also bears cost. And so many organizations that I'm coaching and working with are talking about we need more transparent communication. This is what they're talking about.
Yeah. Hi, this is Kathy Markov. I just want to say you're asking for steps in this. And I've been thinking a lot about the relationship of this to emotional intelligence. And if we're talking about the why, I know in my supervisor experience, I tend to be an alcoholic. I'm not alcoholic, excuse me, workaholic. And when I had little kids, I was spending way too much time in the office. And I realized that I wasn't delegating well and that this isn't always like the boss that people don't like. I had my staff coming to me actually out of respect for really little decisions. And I had to stop and think, okay, I have not empowered them to move forward. So, for example, I had a really highly skilled manager of a facility, and she was coming to me asking usually budgetary questions. Like everything she did was perfect, but she'd come and say, it's so and so's birthday. Can I spend $25 on a birthday cake? And I loved my staff and we'd have a nice conversation, but then I thought she doesn't need to come to me to ask for that. So I created some if-then rules. If you have an expense for the office and I had to think, okay, where's my limit for a mistake? Like if they don't spend the money right, how can I, have the fiduciary control that I need? So I said, okay. And I said this to all my managers of facilities. If you have a decision that you need to make that's $50 or less, up to $300 in a month, then you just go ahead and make that decision. So I basically gave them a $300 a month expense for office supplies, birthday cakes, things like that. And then they knew what they needed to do. I felt confident that if it wasn't done right, my head wasn't on the chopping block with my boss. So for me, another step is really thinking about what's your level for mistakes? And people learn from mistakes. It wasn't that I didn't see what they were spending. I could always talk to them like, oh, that wasn't appropriate to do whatever. And that never happened. They made better decisions than I would have made. So creating these if-then rules. If you run into this situation, then do that. If you run into this situation, then do that. And if you've tried these different things, then come to me. And I only did that with people who had been on board. They understood what they were doing. I think in the beginning, you really have to control it. But when you start to build trust and respect for one another, then how can you let people go with these if-then rules? That's just what I want to share.
Awesome, Mayra. I saw you were vibing with that. You want to jump in and double click on that quick?
Yeah, I'll do it quick. I know we're at time, so if you could stay a little bit longer, please do. We're almost at the end. So I just chimed in on what Kathy said. I've actually applied a similar technique, and it really helps people with boundaries. And it helps us, right? So if we are kind of in that moment where we're realizing, okay, I need to let go a little bit, this can help you still feel like you're managing the process and step away from controlling people. right? That's really the biggest thing. But yeah, I'm right there with Kathy. I think that's a wonderful technique. It's simple, it works, and once you see it working, then you feel rewarded by the return, and you're actually working towards what Danielle said, which is a more sustainable type of return. That would be what I would add on, Craig.
Awesome. And as you mentioned, we're at time. So is there that went so fast. Oh my God, we got to
I
all
know,
do
it's
this
too much
again.
fun.
Is there a departing thought we want to leave people with, a encouragement to take an action or anything very quickly? Do we want to each share here?
Yeah, let's bounce it to Danielle. Danielle, is there a takeaway that you would like the audience to leave with?
Yes, I would say one, there's two things. Be gentle with yourself. It is hard to change a habit. And two, when you're thinking about what's the best intention I have for this employee, it's you want them to grow, you want them to thrive, because when we have more thriving people, it's synergistic, right? So, and always keep in mind your behaviors, your beliefs, and your way of being. Whenever I'm coming into a situation that I feel like, oh, there's some tension, or I'm going to have to provide some critical feedback, or I'm going to want to tell them how to do something when I really need them to explore how they might reckon the problem. I always think about, how do I want to show up in this space? How do I want to be? And I usually end up entering that space with, I want to be someone who helps to this person to grow, to trust themselves, to think, and to be able to execute. So if there's anything, that you walk away with, behavior, beliefs, and ways of being are really critical as a manager.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. What about you, Craig? I'll go last.
Yeah, just quick one. Like in my experience, 70 to 80% of the people who work for you want to give more, want to be more open, but what's holding them back is being micromanaged, not trusted, or not heard, not feeling heard. So just starting there with helping people feel more heard. Listen more than you talk. If you're talking 80% of the time and listening 20, try to flip that around. More listening, less talking, make people feel heard, and you'll start to see the eggshells cracking open magically. So.
Oh, that was the hardest thing for me, to listen more, talk less, but that's us being real. I think my takeaway, or what I would like for the audience to leave with, is to start making distinctions. I like to start with very simple things. Just make distinctions. It helps you fundamentally be clearer about what you need to step into. And I'll leave you with that. So I'll go ahead and head towards our close. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being resilient through everything that we just went through. So let me go ahead and, there we are. All right. So I'll share this, and then at the end, I'll open it up to Q&A. But if you signed up and registered, you'll get a copy of this recording. You'll get a copy of the webinar. And we also have a ton of different resources depending on what your needs are. And in terms of being an individual manager who would like to grow a little bit more, or if you're on a team and you think that, some training would benefit your team, we have the programs available on our website. We have a hero product, which is our management planner, which walks people through the functions of management and leadership, one of which we touched on today, which was the controlling function. You can have access to our neuroscience studies if you want to see the legit work that's been done behind our programming. And of course, if you want to have a free consultation with me, you're more than welcome to. And last but not least, we also have membership programs that are geared towards the individual manager and providing support month to month, and for teams who would like monthly support all year round to have that kind of sustainability approach. And we have one of our tools featured here, which is the Growth Codex, and it proceeds of this Growth Codex go to the Opportunity Engine, EXP, who provides youth with real career opportunities. It's one of the ways that we got our amazing intern, Theo, who is currently listening on the webinar, was done through our support of continuing to develop young leaders and have real world experiences that move way beyond theory. So with that said, let me open it up. Does anybody have any questions? We'll give you a few seconds to unmute if you have any questions or comments. Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining. You'll get access to everything that we talked about, and we hope to see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Danielle.